So how often do the honors and the recognition that we receive really mean that much? How much does it really mean to us if we think about it 10 or 20 years down the road? What having that best seat, what did it mean to us? Didn't get us anymore. You know, I had a box of plaques and trophies and stuff that I earned when I was working, and I kept them for a while, and then I finally threw them out. I would go into the dump one day, and I just packaged them all up, and I threw them away. Some I can't even remember where I got them or what I got them for, but then there were some that were special to me, but they'd lost their luster, you know. They really didn't mean or don't mean that much to me anymore. And they would even mean less to others. The point is that we need to look at ourselves in the light of who we are and who we are living for. Ourselves or Christ. Who are we living for? And after Jesus sees what's going on, he speaks to the issue and gives some practical advice. And if you look at verses 8 and 9 again, and at 8 it starts, when someone invites you to a wedding feast, don't take that place of honor, for a person more distinguished than you may have been invited. 9, and 9 tells us, if so, the host who invited both of you will come and say to you, give this man your seat. Then, humiliated, you will have to take the least important place. Notice what Jesus says. The proud or the ambitious person works to promote themselves and fall on their faces. Because it doesn't generally work that way, you know? Jesus describes exactly what happens to ambitious people. They will be displaced, asked to move from their seat. They will find all the other seats are taken, and they'll have to take the lowest seat. In the end, they'll wind up taking the lowest seat. And they'll have to, not only that, they'll have to live with embarrassment, because they were asked to leave from the best seat to go to the least seat. The term exalt is one that is often used for God or Christ. It means to raise or to lift. Now, we cannot do anything to give Christ a higher place than he already has. But we can acknowledge it. That's what we can do. We can acknowledge it. When the Bible calls for us to exalt God, it means to acknowledge that he is higher than that we are. Exalting self means that we are raising ourselves to a place of honor and dignity. There are 4 things that we see in the life of a person that exalts himself. Number 1, it decreases the values of others. The person who acts in self-exaltation will tear others down to build themselves up. They downplay the abilities of others to make themselves look better. Purposely lowers others to raise themselves higher. And 2, acts of self-sufficient. The person may not be self-sufficient, and may many times they're not even self-sufficient. They want people to think they are, and they will put on a great show. They will try to be in control of everything they can be and act as independent as possible. The real problem is that people who fall into this mode of living feel little or no need for God. They don't need God. Number 3, the person that acts in a corrupt manner. These people have to live in the moment right now. There is a mortality that fits the current situation or circumstance. They live as they need to in order to fit that circumstance that's happening at that moment or current need. Does this sound like American society? The people who exalt themselves will do whatever is needed to get ahead. They will lie and they will cheat and they'll steal and a host of other things to get their way. And number 4, there will be constant struggle. The self-exalting will never be satisfied with anything in life because there will always be another goal to attain and another prize that they've got to win. This is a survivor type mentality. They will outdo, outmaneuver, outwit to gain a higher level. They seek position, prestige, and power, but will never know peace with Jesus Christ. The humble take a lower place than needed, and the results are astonishing. Notice what happens when a lower place is taken. Their presence is acknowledged by the host. They are rewarded. They're moved up to a higher place. They are recognized by all, no matter where their seat is. No matter where they're sitting, they're recognized. And how do we live in a humble manner? Measure yourself with Christ. There was a guy, I went to this church, and he was always singing this one song. It used to drive me nuts. But every time, it didn't make no difference where he was either whistling it, singing it, or humming it. And Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. We laugh, but it's often the attitude we have about ourselves. Actually, we have that attitude about ourselves because we think that we're perfect in every way. But we got to try to compare our lives to the life of Christ. There will be at least one discovery that you don't measure up to. It's okay because you never will. No person will ever measure up to Jesus because it can't be done. We can't do it. He is perfect, and you and I are never going to be perfect. But Jesus Christ is perfect. So why do this? I'll give you the proper perspective. You may have come a long way in your life, and that is great, but we all still have a long way left to go, or we hope we do. And measuring ourselves to Christ will also remind us of who is the master and who is the servant. And I hope we remember that we are the servants. Measuring ourselves to Christ will also remind us of who the master is. When you do this, pride will evaporate from your life. Be conscious of your need for God. You have nothing. You can do nothing. And you are nothing without God. I often think of this when I see famous people flaunting their fame and their fortune. I was watching a show on TV, and it was one of them awards shows that made a big deal of walking down the aisle on a red carpet, and the news crews were going on about that person watching what kind of car they arrived in and what kind of clothes they were wearing and what kind of jewelry they had on. Maybe it's just me, but who really cares? Who really cares what those people have? We don't really care what they have. And we have to be honest about yourself. We're not the center of the universe. We're not the center of attention. We're not the center of attention in life. We've got to get over it. The fact is that most of us want to be the center of attention. We try we tend to try to elevate ourselves more than we should. We live to look out for number one. Mentality too much. Humanity begins when we admit. Humanity begins when we admit that we're self-centered and make the move to become more Christ-centered. Amen.
Oh, thank you.